Hi, welcome to today's episode of Lost in Our 40s, where we talk about women, life, how to manage it all, how to balance it all while having a good time. Welcome. The music is by Atemi Oyungu. Today we're doing it a little differently. I'm painting as we discuss, and our topic of discussion is the good girl at work. So we've spoken about the good girl. The good girl is this concept of this woman who needs some kind of validation from the people around her. We don't necessarily think of this all the time. It's not something we are necessarily consciously aware of. But if you do find yourself being the kind of person who lacks in confidence and requires other people to tell them that they're doing okay, this comes from upbringing. So we've been taught, and especially as women, we have been taught, hence the term good girl, we have been taught to be lesser than, to diminish ourselves, to always try to please others, to put others first. And that has an impact. We are unlearning. We are unlearning the effects that this, not upbringing, but this sense that is so not indoctrinated. That sounds very big, and like there was a process that was actually set out, because it's how we grow up. It's being told in school that you've done this well, you're such a good girl, and that encourages you to always do what it is that you've been told you're a good girl for. And what are you told that for? For being quiet, for being pretty, for doing the right thing, for following the rules, for doing things exactly the way they're meant to be done. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but there is the book, the Good Girl Doesn't Get the Corner Office, or something like that. So within the workplace, as within life, these teachings that can subconsciously reside within us then are not terribly helpful. They then work against us, or they can work against us. They often work against us. And so here we are looking at it at the workplace, how to combat the good girl effect at the workplace. Because even when, this is all from my own experience. I have been the ultimate good girl, always, always, always striving to do things without knowing it and without understanding it, without realizing that that was what I was doing. And it has had such an impact on me. It has had an impact on my work life. And this is the discussion. It's an open discussion to see how to get away from that, how to live a better life, how to live a more centered life where you are the actor, not the observer of what society has taught you to do. You're taking stock and you are living in the middle of your own life. Right? So today we're talking about inability to speak up. Tang, 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 tang. So, speaking up. What is speaking up? Speaking up is there is that see something, say something in terms of like a whistleblowing kind of effect. There is that kind of speaking up, but there is also just the more neutral, the more basic. And here, sometimes we need to start at the basics. Voicing your opinion. You have an opinion about something. Sometimes you've even been asked for your opinion, but you keep quiet. Why? Because you tell yourself, no, these kind of things are not for you. There are other people who are better suited to comment about them, or that you are not sure that your opinion is correct. There's also that you're not sure that your opinion matters. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about office culture, because that one could come from different spaces. It could be that you yourself have learned, being the good girl, you've learned to diminish yourself. And so you do not believe that you'd have anything of substance to bring to the table, because that's what you've been taught. You're the good girl. You should let other people lead. You are there to follow. But it could also be that the office culture is such that you're not encouraged. You're not encouraged to speak. Have I been in both? I've certainly been in the first one, the one where I thought that I can't possibly have anything useful to bring to the table. And interestingly, you'll find that is much more common than we speak about, and that's part of the reason for this podcast. This is something that so many people go through, but because it's not something that is voiced, then we all think that we are going through this unique experience, and yet it's something that everyone else is also, well, a large percentage of the population is also going through. So what keeps you from speaking up? So there's the spotlight effect. This I laugh. It's silly to think of now. Well, not silly, but it's okay. This is what it is. There's someone actually once told me that, I don't know where she heard it. That 3-year-olds think that they are at the center of the universe. I don't know if she was it. Either way, that 3-year-old thinks that they are at the center of the universe. Everything is happening around and about them. So we as adults have these effects as well at points in time, because that is where we are. we feel that everyone is looking at us, everyone is concentrating on us. Anything we do, anything we say, we're just being judged from people across the board. That we are. It's really just that thing. It sounds. I don't know what it sounds. I want to say it sounds silly when I put it like this, but it's not at all silly when you're living through it. When you're living through it, you can see it. It's obvious. It's obvious to you. And I mean, it's been obvious to me. Again, all of this is from my own experience. It's been obvious to me that when I walk into the office, that all those people, depending on where I was in my state of mind, it could be that the people whispering there at the corner are whispering about me. Yeah. And then I've built up, because of course, being at the center of my universe, what else could they possibly be talking about? What else could they be talking about if not my, maybe I've worn something that I'm not happy with. So let's say I want to say an ill-fitting shirt, but that's not the example that I have in mind. It's a shirt that I was going to throw away because I thought that it had faded. It was no longer as bright as it used to be. And then I looked at it and decided to just wear it one last time. Just this last time. And then I go to work and find people whispering in the corner. Meanwhile, perhaps something dramatic is happening somewhere in the world. Could be, I don't know, that Russia has declared a war in Ukraine. Real things. There are real things that are happening out in the world, but I see people huddled together and maybe they look at me. They're looking at me because someone has entered the room, so it's just that kind of thing. And then they continue talking. And in my mind, that's it. The world is over. These people are sitting there talking about me. I presume that this is familiar to you. Why? Because this happens. This happens to everybody. This happens to all of us because we can get self-engrossed. So it doesn't need to happen all the time, hopefully, but it's an experience that you might have lived. And if you've lived it, you're normal. Welcome to the world. But now the question is this. If this spotlight effect, maybe you're in a meeting and you think that everyone in your team has been judging you. Again, it's the same kind of thing. This is how these things turn up. It could be that you've done something and you're not too happy with how you've done it. And so because of that, you think that everyone else is talking about the thing that you've done so poorly. Again, spotlight effect. So meanwhile, people are thinking about their own lives and the things that happen there. So real from their because from their perspective, it is real. Whatever they are going through is real. What you are going through is real. And interestingly, a lot of people also have the spotlight effect. So while you are thinking that everyone is talking about you, everyone is thinking that everyone is talking about them. To a larger and smaller effect. So, I mean, I'm clearly overgeneralizing. It's not everyone. I think it's these guys who are more secure. When you talk about attachment styles, the people who are more secure are able to look at the world in a much more less centered way. They understand the dynamics of the world, and they understand that this is not how the world is working. And becoming aware, first of all, that this is a conversation that you have been having with yourself and that it is a false conversation is, as always, the place to start. Because once you see that, then it becomes much easier to detach yourself from being the center of your universe, the center of the universe as far as you are concerned. And I mean this from the perspective of what other people are doing and what other people are saying. I mentioned before that there's a movie playing in everyone's mind, and hopefully they are the main character of their own movie. So from that perspective, it's not they're not they're not spending all their time concentrating on what you are doing, what the effect of what you are doing is. No, that is not at the center of theirs any more than it is at the center of yours. In fact, that's a way to think about it. When you walk into the room, are you noticing people's ill-fitting shirts or faded shirts? Is that the first thing that comes to your mind? The way it will be the first thing that comes to your mind is if they are self-conscious about it, because that's when you find people playing around with their shirts, with their clothes, or whatever it is they're unhappy with, and this draws your attention to that. Yeah, yeah. Again, all experience things I've done, and a life we've all lived. The other one I have here is a fear of judgment. So you, and in, let's say me, in my case, there was a fear that the people there will think I'm wrong, and they shall judge me for having the audacity to take up space, to take up space and say things which are obviously wrong. Why do I bother? Why was I even employed? Easy to laugh at it now, not easy at all to laugh at it while it is in progress. Well, please believe me. So don't, I hope you don't take this, let's call this a friendly conversation where we can talk about things while they're not in the spotlight. Yeah. So I'm not laughing at you, not at all. Perhaps laughing at myself a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't. Well, I think it's good to be able to look back at life with appreciation of how one has grown, because I no longer feel this way. And perhaps it's not forever. Perhaps it's just in the present work situations I am in. Perhaps there's something that will happen that will bring these feelings up. But the point is, again, once you've seen them, it becomes much easier to deal with, because you have a you've seen it before. You have an appreciation of what's going on. Yeah. And that's something that's not always there, when, especially when you've never had these kind of conversations with yourself. I remember this being in the thick of it feels very heavy. It can feel overwhelming when you're, you sweat, it's prickly heat. You're just thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm meant to talk. I don't want to talk this. I'm being put in the spotlight. I do not want to be in the spotlight. And yet, if we take these steps back and understand that these are the fears that are taking center stage, it becomes easier to deal with it. Okay. Then there's a fear of being wrong. That's a very big fear. If there is a spotlight to step into, and you know what you want to say, but then you might lack the confidence in yourself, the confidence of standing up and saying it, because you might be wrong. And really, what does it matter if you are wrong? People get that's how things improve in life. People get things wrong, and then things can be gotten wrong dramatically. Things can be gotten wrong lightly. That's life. It's a part of life. So without having, and that's part of the good girl as well, because with a good girl, you have this super high standard. In school, you were told you were doing good when you were right. No, I never told you were doing good when you were wrong. So from that perspective, the internalization is you must get things right. If it is not right, then it is the end of the world. So again, we are now just having this conversation. Let's normalize being wrong. Everyone gets things wrong. Everyone, from, I don't know, probably the only person who didn't get things wrong is probably Christ. So with that perspective in mind, it should be okay. It should be okay to give it a try and be told and reach the realization that it was not correct. Because that's what other people do. If you notice it, other people within the meetings will do that. It's just that they have the confidence in themselves to be vulnerable. It's actually that. It's actually that they have the confidence in themselves to put themselves out there, even though what they're putting themselves out there for might not work out. It is a strength, as Brené Brown says in her book, Dare to Lead. I hope I got that one right. Yeah, I'll put it in the notes anyway. So the next one is lack of role models, and I think this is a big one. I'm presently reading Michelle Obama's The Light We Bring. I hope that's what it's called. And I'm in that section where she's talking about role models, seeing people, how important it is to see people like you to be able to believe in yourself, such that if you are now thinking of stepping out into this brave space of speaking up, you want to say something because it's been burning at you. It's making you uncomfortable. There's something going on that you're uncomfortable with. It just does not sit well with you. Then it is more difficult to do this if you have not seen someone who looks like you do that. And in the work context, this actually has a lot to do with gender, men and women, such that there are less women in leadership roles. I believe this is a fact across the globe, unfortunately. And being able to see someone who looks like you, a woman, in this example, that you have seen women taking positions of leadership, would encourage you to know that this is something that is allowed. It's something that you can do. It's so simple, yet so powerful. Such a powerful, simple thing that just by seeing someone who looks like you do something strengthens you to do it. And when I said speaking up, it could just be, we are talking about where the coffee machine should be placed. And you have an opinion on it. That ability to speak up and state that, according to me, the coffee machine should be here, there, or the other place, has some your ability to speak up is determined by this confidence that you have in yourself. And something as small as never having seen anyone, it's not small, that's actually a big thing. When you've never seen anyone queried, anyone who looks like you, queried or answering or saying things like that, then you get the impression that those are not things that people like you should say. And here I'm talking about women. There's a whole band of things that can be used to give you that perspective, depending on who you are, what you look like, where you are. It could even be your profession. Maybe there are no. Again, women is an easy example in the workplace, because it could be that there are not many women who do whatever it is that you are doing, and then having the wherewithal to stand up and say, this is what I think, this is my opinion, can seem super daunting. Self-doubt, that goes with some of these that we're saying. The reason that you doubt yourself could be because of the fear, could be because you do not see other people who look like you, could be because of the spotlight effect. Bullying, now that's one. And I'll put these together because I have bullying and toxic culture as the next point. So I'll give you the example of gaslighting at work. So something I've gone through myself. I have had the situation of let me explain how it feels like to be gaslit in the workplace. It feels like questioning yourself. It feels like feeling confused. It feels like thinking that you know something, getting evidence or feedback, especially feedback. It's a toxic culture, so it could be someone telling you something else. Then you're left questioning yourself. I don't know if I can use my own example. I'll prefer not to, but that is how I felt. I raised something, and the feedback I was given was that doesn't exist. That's not true. So it's heavy because you have been brave. You have been brave to stand up and state your truth, and you have been told your truth is not true. And how you internalize this what you do with this feedback can vary. And it depends maybe on a number of things. It depends on how obvious I think the thing is. So if I was saying the wall is white and the feedback was that no, the wall is green, then that is actually the feeling of confusion even at work. Because then you look at the wall, you're being told by people who are there, have been there for a long, long time. And, you start asking yourself that maybe they see the color of the wall differently. And you've probably seen that experiment that has people who, the ones who enter a lift, I saw this one recently. People enter a lift. So everyone who's in the lift is in on it except for this one person who enters. And then instead of facing the front, everyone faces the back. And the person, and everyone, even the people who are coming into the lift, because they're all in on it, they come in and face the back. And the person who's there, then you see them confused and wondering what's going on. And in a majority of the cases, this person will turn back because of our need to belong. We are told that our ancestors, our forefathers, the ones who did not belong, the ones in the tribal days when we were discovering fire, and before probably, the ones who did not fit in, the ones who abandoned the tribe did not survive. If they were excommunicated from the tribe for whatever reason, or they just left of their own volition, you need the community to be able to survive. So it's an inbuilt instinct with our, do they call it the reptilian brain? Our initial brain is the one that is just geared towards doing this automatically. So it takes something to be able to stand against this feedback and look at the wall and query yourself and say, it takes also being in touch with yourself, being in touch with your body, your intuition, your perspective, your sense of self, and look at the wall and say, this wall is white, even if the whole organization is telling you that it's wrong. And sometimes that's what organizations need. Actually, not sometimes, always. Organizations need people who stand up for their truth. Of course, not crazily. Saying that the wall is not the color that everyone is saying is not crazy. This is being able to set out the facts. I don't know if this is an example to give here, but we'll give it anyway. Henry Ford. I was reading Think and Grow Rich. So Napoleon Hill, who's the author of that book, has a lot of examples of Henry Ford. And what he says is that when he was creating his car, he did not have the education. He did not have anything. He did not actually have anything that substantiated his belief that this car could be made, that it was possible to have this kind of vehicle. But he stated that he wanted it, and he told the people, because he had staff, he told the staff to go back, think about it until they come up with it. And he was told many times, it is not possible, it is not possible. And he did not agree to this impossibility. He did not acquiesce to it. He said, no, go back there and do it and think about it until you bring it up. And you know what happens? We now have the car. Because this guy was bold enough, stubborn enough, whatever enough to stick to his grounds. So, okay, fine. He was the leader of the organization. He perhaps was better placed to do it. But the world was a better place because he did. So what if your organization is a better place because you stand up for what it is that you believe, that you stand up for what it is that at your core you feel? What if it's something as small as stating where the coffee machine should be, and you stand up for your truth, and you state that the coffee machine, according to you, should be placed here? And whether or not they place it there is not the point. The point is that you have occupied space. You have contributed. You have stated yourself to be important. And this is very good even for you, because this is giving you the evidence that, look, I matter. You're telling all the parts of yourself that we are here. Body, look, I'm taking up space. I'm giving I'm giving our opinion about what we think about this issue. And it makes you feel worthwhile. And oftentimes when you do, that is when you'll realize that people are not out to get you. That's when you realize that everyone is in this race doing their best, doing their best. There is this thought that I used to have sometimes that everyone is out to get me. So whenever I start any kind of conversation, it starts from the thinking that this person doesn't have an open perspective to me. And this often came from different fears which are seated in different areas. So it could be the fear of being the only black person in the room. So if I'm the only black person in the room, it could have been the fear that it's not something that I was used to. And because of that, then I tell myself that all these people are out to get me. And if you tell yourself that, we kind of create our realities. So if you tell yourself that the people who are there in the room with you are out to get you, then because of the nature of the energy you emit, they might then become out to get you, because you have this a low vibe. You victimize yourself to some extent. And I've done this. This is frankly from real life experience. Victimizing yourself then puts these people in that aura to it taps into that essence of themselves, where that is how they show up. They show up to belittle you. And the opposite is true. If I show up without that feeling in my mind, without that so oftentimes now I don't notice. I mean, based on where I live, being the only black person is not uncommon, but it's not something that I notice often. And because I don't notice it, I am not victimizing myself, because there's nothing wrong or right with being the only black person, nothing wrong or right with being the only woman, nothing wrong or right with being the only anything that you might be, whatever it is that makes you stand out. The teachings that society portrays about, take the patriarchy, that women are less. So this teaching is something that is within me. I cannot deny it, because this is something that has been portrayed to me since my childhood. So I then need to go into it myself and have a conversation with myself about what I think, this teaching was available to me in my youth. What do I think about it now? Not even in my youth. It has been available to me all my life. It's available to all women. It's available to all people, regardless of what the teaching might be in your case. It's always there. Society is very eager to tell you what you should and shouldn't do, who you are and are not, how you should and should not show up. And the question is just that: what do you do with this teaching? Taking the time to have a conversation with yourself. If society taught me that being a woman means that I am less, what evidence can I find to show me that that is not true? What can I tell myself to start believing that as a woman, as a black person, as a person of such a height, whatever it is, that I am not less, even though that is what society has strived to teach me. And these are actually things that you have to do. These are things that I had to do. I had to sit down with myself and have some, from affirmations to quiet time to meditation to journaling, because it's already there. It's a program that's written in my head, so I need to override it. And the action of overriding it is what I call inner work. This introspection with yourself. Because if you leave it untouched, it remains there. This programming that we are not aware of, it remains there. You actually need to actively take a part in changing the narratives that exist within you. So, I have a section on how to deal. And maybe we've covered them all, how to deal with them, because I'm conscious of the time. Let's just go through them and see where the time takes us. So one is evidence of your past successes. So when I was talking about inner work, how do you then, you've noticed these things about yourself, you're unable to speak up. What do you do about it? So here, Evidence from your past. As when you feel self-doubt, when you think that you fear that what you have to say is not worth it, what happens many times is that you do not say it, and then you find that someone else says exactly what you had in mind, perhaps, or it says something that is a worse idea than what you had, and that is what everyone goes with, and you're like, but yeah. Again, first-hand experience, because then that tells you that you do have a unique perspective. You are important. Everyone is important. Absolutely, everyone is important. That's why we are here. That's why in the year 2024, or whenever it is that you're listening to this, we are here because the world needs us. It could be, again, coffee machine. It could be something as simple as that. But you have a perspective that is based on how people congregate, perhaps. You have the experience of how marketing, as an example. Perhaps not the best example, because I don't mean it from an academic perspective, but maybe you have been in an office where the coffee machine was placed where it is presently placed, and that made people not drink coffee, not congregate, not have conversations, and you realize that putting it somewhere centrally would do that. And perhaps the people who are the people you're dealing with, the people you're having the conversation with, have not had such a perspective. So from there, they don't know, putting it simply. They have never experienced what you've experienced. So without your coming up and stating it, they wouldn't realize that that is something that should be considered. Coffee machine is an easy example, but take this in anything. You have every single human being has a unique set of experiences that sets them up to be who they are. So whether or not your opinion is taken into account, yeah, whether or not things go the way you propose that they go, is not as much the point as having the guts to speak up. Because even if things don't go the way you want them to go, and it's not even how it shouldn't necessarily be how you want them to go. Yours is stating your opinion. Yours is raising your voice, because again, your voice is important. The world needs it. It's probably why you were employed. The reason you work in that organization is because they wanted to hear you speak. So you are doing a disservice to the society, the community, yourself, everyone, by keeping quiet. Again, not easy. So one of the ways of realizing that you can speak up and what you have to say is important is looking at your past experience, seeing the things that you've done. Then you come to realize that, you know what, I am a great person. And in that realization, you talk. Realizing that everyone has the same thoughts as you is also quite liberating. We have this bubble that we live in, and we think that, oh no, when I talked about the 3-year-old. So when you realize that everyone is living through that same kind of bubble, everyone has these same kind of thoughts. What if I say? What if I say? To a larger or greater extent, fear is probably something that you can't get rid of. You can learn how to deal with it. You can conquer it and this, maybe I am not a scientist. I'm telling you what I have experienced. So the fears that I have conquered come up every once in a while. And so what I do then is that I notice them, I see them. I feel the feeling. I allow myself to feel the feeling of fear. They say that the things that you are afraid of, whenever there's something that you're afraid of, lean into it, because that is showing you something that you are interested in. If you are not interested in it, you would be indifferent. You would have no feeling about it at all. But once you fear it, then that is something that is of interest to you. So absolutely worth following up. Bullies. If you have this toxic environment and you have some bullies and you're facing bullying, something that helps is to realize that hurt people. It's probably something you've heard before, but it means that people who are nasty in trying to bully and sap out your energy and take out your space are people who've been bullied themselves. This doesn't help, fine, but it helps to look at this person from that perspective. They were bullied maybe undoubtedly when they were young, and they got stuck at that point in time of bullying. So look at this person. It could be your boss. It could be your CEO. It could be your the person who gets the messenger. It could be someone who reports to you. And if these people, it doesn't help actually. It doesn't matter who the person bullying you is, because bullying is such an experience to go through. Have I been bullied at work? I've been through a toxic situation at work, and I've gone through bullying more in my life, in my younger life. So if I put the two together, is where I'm taking this conversation from. That if you look at this person as a child, because they were bullied maybe in their playgrounds when they were young, and they got stuck at the point of bullying. It is their inner child that is coming up and doing these dramatic things. So if you take them from that perspective, look at them as a 5-year-old. I've done this with a toxic person, stepping aside from the situation that is going on and looking at them as the person who feels that they must engage in this way. You feel sorry for them. That's what happened with me. I felt really, really sorry for this person because I thought, wow, what life have you lived that this is how you feel you must show up? How sad is your life? How unfortunate. How unfortunate. How I was sorry for them. And because of that, then the sting of what they were doing was lost. Because it's no longer personal. I can see that they are unable to control it themselves. It's not a personal attack on me, much as they want to state it that way. It is them stuck within their own the nonsense that happened to them in the past that they have been unable to get away from. So taking it from that perspective makes it easier to deal with them, because then you're no longer as emotionally involved, because you can tell this person is not actually doing anything against you personally. They are just showing up in the world the way they must, unfortunately for them, and you feel sad for them. If it's a bully, look at them as if they were 5. Picture them in your mind as the 5-year-old version of you doing what they're doing. And from that, you can get some compassion. You can look at this person and realize that they are stuck in a bad place. You do not have to be dragged into the bad place with them. Yeah, and it makes life easier to deal with. It makes them easier to deal with. Seek out positive female role models. And if not at your workplace, you can use the internet. And you can become the role model for others. You can even become the role model for yourself. So this means look out at work, find that one woman. Or maybe I'm being too mean. Maybe there are a number of women who you can look out to. Take Renee, no, what's her name? Not Renee. Sanders. Cheryl Sanders, the one who wrote Lean In. That book really encouraged me because she spoke about exactly these kind of topics at a time when I didn't realize that other people other than me were going through them. Rather, I read it at a time when I didn't realize that other people were going through them. And it was so liberating to understand that it is not fake. I'm not creating things in my mind when I feel that I have some certain limitations that are imposed on me by the organization that I might be at a given time because of the patriarchy, because I'm a woman, because I am black, because I'm not short, whatever it is, because of whatever it is that I am. The female and the black, the female especially, and that's why we have this podcast, is the one that really comes out, because as women, we do face not a lack of acceptance. We can find limitations placed on our way by virtue of being women. And this is what the book Lean In really spoke about. She gave the example of going to a meeting in an office that was so unused to having women that they did not have female toilets. So these things are not created. It is not imaginary. If you do see these things happening, it helps to have that perspective from someone who has gone through it and overcome it. And she says, because she was the COO of Facebook, I don't know if she still is, and she said that that made her realize things needed to. She gave the example, I think, of creating parking spaces for expectant women nearer the office. Because these, when you don't see them, when you don't notice them, these things just go. The male perspective, and there's nothing wrong with men, but it's just that without having lived the female experience, there are things that they wouldn't realize to make exactly like that. I did work in an office where there was no space for expectant mothers, not expectant, for new mothers to express. Many X's there, for new mothers to express their milk. So you come back to work and you need somewhere to go, so they had to go to the toilet, and that was really not the best. It was really not the best way that that could happen. But someone voiced it. Someone spoke up and said, "Look, this is happening to us." And because at the organization the vast majority of the people were men, it is just something that never crossed their minds. It's they do not have this. They they don't know. So it's not that they're mean and they're trying to create a difficult workspace for women. It's just that they didn't realize that this is a thing that happens. Whether or not they should is a different conversation. But if you know it, stand up and speak it. And you're standing up and speaking it, then can create the change. So that's why I say that you can also be the role model. You can be the one who's creating change, and others will look up to you. I believe that. Yes, it is possible. Learn to trust your body and instinct. So this helps a lot with the toxic culture, the gaslighting I was talking about. If you learn how to trust your body speaks to you. Aside of, we've spoken before about how the mind, yes, is one center, but the gut is another center that actually gives information up to the mind. So listening to what your body is telling you, it gives you cues like your discomfort. When you're having the conversation on the color of the wall, your body can tell you if you are in a toxic environment, if something is off. Your instincts will tell you if something is off. And believe me, when you're in the midst of toxicity, because of these questions you're asking yourself, it is easy to self-doubt. Because it could well be that the culture that you're in does not encourage speaking up, in which case, then what do you do? So understanding, having first of all this feeling, understanding what, where you are, what the organization you are in is doing. And it might not be the organization, it could be one person, it could be the organization, it could be the team, it could be a couple of people. So it helps to have that self-grounding to be able to recognize when these things happen. All right. Assume neutrality. Assume that no one is out to get you. This for me was a little tough because I walked into an environment where I felt like an other. And because of this otherization, I just believed that everyone was out to get me, that anything, that I needed to be on the lookout. Again, this is something that is much more common than we speak about. This feeling that people are out to get you. Again, easy to laugh at now when it's not something that's top of mind, but consider commencing from neutrality. What if people were not out to get you? Yeah? What if you were not being vilified for XYZ? What if you could just turn up as yourself? Because remember what you said about how you can create the avenue for, not the avenue, you can create the environment for others to, for the worst in others to come up. Yeah? Depending on how high or low your vibration is, how you show up, how you turn up. And again, I don't mean this not to be mistaken to mean that we are always responsible for the kind of environment we are and the kind of feedback we get. No, there are people who again are just out. It is true that there will be people who are out to get you. But if you begin interactions with the assumption of neutrality, then lean into your body to let you know when there has been a change. then that can bring you out to receive the best possible outcome, such that if the person was going to become, negative either way, that's fine. They have their own reality. They have things going on in their lives. In fact, the thing I like saying is that whenever something goes off, I assume that something bad happened in that person's life. His wife left him yesterday. That's why he's in such a foul mood. So I assume that it has nothing to do with me. That whatever they're doing, whatever they're going through, whatever reaction they have is absolutely based on factors that are not personal to me. And then that helps me, because then I don't need to wage war. It's the ego that is waging a war to protect you. So I don't need to wage a war to protect myself, because then this thing that happened actually had nothing to do with me. Ask, what is the worst that could happen? So when living in fear, not living in fear, but when experiencing fear, what is the worst that could happen? Ask. If you again, back to our coffee machine, if you want to state what it is that you think it should be, what is the worst that could happen? If you were wrong, if you were silly, if everyone thought that you shouldn't have spoken, even if those things that are running through your mind are true, what is the worst that could happen? What would they do? Will they beat you? you know if it and it's part of this self-confidence in understanding that you occupy as much space as everyone else there, including, so this hierarchy at work need not be, how to put it, human beings are human beings, and all human beings are important. So it doesn't make the richer people of the world more important from a human being perspective than the other people. Same thing at work. From a human being perspective, we are all important. We are all fundamental. We all have something to say. So with that in mind, then what's the worst that could happen? What are they going to do? Will you lose your job for saying where the coffee machine should be? And here maybe I should highlight that these things that we're talking about, we always, everything that I'm talking about here presupposes good intent on your part and respect. So it's not that we are throwing tantrums and being bullies ourselves, no, but we have something to say respectfully. We believe it in our hearts, and we have used our nuance to understand when we should speak and when we should not speak. So having played all this, and politics is important. Politics is something that happens in the workplace, something that cannot be ignored. So having taken that into consideration is when now we speak about what to say. That's where we are, and speaking up. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode. My painting has come up rather nicely, I think. I shall not be showing it to you. But thank you. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate it. I pray that you have a wonderful day. My hope for you is that through listening to this, you are empowered to speak up a little more. When you have that niggling feeling that you should, you can, you would, just do it. I've done it out of fear. Sometimes fake it till you make it. I've spoken up with a wobbly voice and almost teary eyes because I felt it in myself that I really wanted to. And oftentimes it was not about anything of import. It wasn't even as important about where the coffee machine should be. It was providing my input about something that I wanted to provide input on. And I did it scared, because doing it scared enabled me to have less fear the next time. I understood that I didn't die, and I understood that there is space. There is space for all of us to do this. So thanks again. Wishing you a wonderful day, week, evening, month, wherever you are. Bye-bye.